Look, let's be honest here. The price of games these days, it's getting kind of ridiculous. $70 or sometimes even more is a big ask. And there is nothing worse than dropping that kind of cash on a hyped up release only to realize about 3 hours in that yeah, you messed up. You just want your money back. But every now and then, you get something special, something that feels complete, polished, and genuinely worth every single penny. Welcome to Next Gen Games, and today, 18 PS5 games that are worth full price. At number 18 is Cyberpunk 2077. And look, I know exactly what you're thinking. You're remembering the disaster launch, the glitches, the memes, but we have to put that aside because right now, on the PS5, this game is essentially a redemption arc in software form. You play as V, a mercenary in Night City who takes a job that goes horribly wrong, leaving you with a biochip in your head that's slowly being overwritten by the consciousness of a dead rock star. So you're basically fighting for your life while exploring this massive dystopian metropolis. And the gameplay, it finally feels like what was promised. It's this deep first-person RPG where you can build your character however you want. You want to be a ninja with a katana? Go for it. You want to hack everyone's cybernetics and make their weapons jam? You can do that too. With the 2.0 update, the combat feels punchy, the police system actually works, and the skill trees make sense. Just driving around Night City, looking at the neon lights reflecting off the wet pavement, yeah, it's gorgeous. It's a long journey, but it is absolutely worth the cash now. At number 17 is Diablo 4. And look, if you just want a game that you can sink, I don't know, 500 hours into, this is the one. The premise is, well, pretty grim. Lilith, the daughter of hatred, has returned, and Sanctuary is basically having a really bad time. You pick your class, barbarian, necromancer, whatever fits your vibe, and you go out to stop the apocalypse. But let's be real, you're here for the loot. The gameplay loop is just dangerously addictive. It's that lizard brain satisfaction of smashing a button and watching 100 demons explode into piles of gold and gear. And playing this on PS5, it feels surprisingly great on a controller. You get direct control of your character, and the haptics add this nice little crunch to every hit. Plus, it's got couch co-op, which is rare these days. Being able to sit down next to a buddy and just grind through dungeons all night, yeah, that alone makes it worth the price of entry. At number 16 is Resident Evil 4 Remake. Now, touching a game that is widely considered one of the, if not the best game of all time, that's risky. That is walking on thin ice. But somehow Capcom didn't just walk on it, they did a backflip. You're stepping back into the shoes of Leon S. Kennedy, who, by the way, has fantastic hair, sent to a rural Spanish village to rescue the president's daughter from a terrifying cult. It's the classic setup we all know, but it feels darker. It feels heavier. The gameplay is just a masterclass in pacing. It's not just about shooting, it's about crowd control. And the new parry mechanic, oh man, being able to deflect a pitchfork or even a chainsaw with your combat knife? It's stressful, but when you pull it off, you feel like an action hero. The DualSense controller adds to it too. The triggers tighten up when you aim, making every shot feel deliberate. It respects the original, but it makes it playable for, modern standards. Definitely worth the full price tag. At number 15 is The Last of Us Part 1. Okay, I know. I hear you. You're probably saying, Daniel, this game is over a decade old. Why am I paying full price for it again? And honestly, I was skeptical too. But having played through this remake, yeah, it belongs here. If you somehow don't know, you play as Joel, a smuggler tasked with escorting a teenage girl named Ellie across a post-apocalyptic United States. It's one of the best stories ever told in gaming. It's emotional, it's brutal, and it's grounded. But on the PS5, it's a different beast. The gameplay feels much heavier and more responsive than the original. The AI is actually smart now, Enemies will flank you, communicate, and make you panic. It's survival action where every single bullet counts. And visually, it is stunning. Seeing the genuine fear in Ellie's eyes during a fight because of the new facial animations, it just hits harder. Combine that with the haptic feedback when you're drawing a bow, it's the definitive version of a masterpiece. At number 14 is Black Myth Wukong. Man, the hype cycle for this one it was intense. We saw those trailers for years, wondering if it could actually look that good. And yeah, it actually does. It really does. You step into the shoes of the Destined One, basically Sun Wukong from Journey to the West. Your goal is to recover lost relics and essentially live out this massive Chinese mythological epic. It's weird, it's mystical, and the creature designs are just out of this world. But the gameplay, that's where it earns the price tag. It gets compared to Dark Souls a lot, but it feels different. It's faster. You don't have a shield to hide behind. It's all about perfect dodges and aggression with your staff. And the transformation mechanic, where you can turn into the bosses you've defeated to use their powers, that changes everything. It's challenging, sure, but it's fair. And visually on the PS5, it is a technical marvel. If you want to see what next gen actually looks like, this is it. At number 13 is Final Fantasy 16. Now this one split the fan base a little bit. If you went in expecting strategic turn-based battles and a whimsical adventure, yeah, you didn't get that. You got Game of Thrones with chocobos. You play as Clive Rosefield, a guy who has just arguably the worst life imaginable. He's on a brutal path of revenge across Valisthea, a world that is slowly dying. It's mature, it's gritty, and the voice acting is some of the best in the series. The gameplay, though, it's full-on character action. Square Enix actually brought in the combat director from Devil May Cry 5, so you know it feels snappy. You're juggling enemies, swapping between elemental powers on the fly, and landing massive combos. But the real selling point here, the icon battles. You are literally controlling these Godzilla-sized monsters in fights that are just pure spectacle. My jaw was on the floor for half of them. It's a linear, focused, high-budget roller coaster. Absolutely worth the ticket. At number 12 is Demon Souls. This was a launch title for the PS5, but it is arguably still the best-looking game on the entire console. Bluepoint Games, they are wizards, absolute wizards. You are a lone warrior entering the kingdom of Boletaria, which has been swallowed by a colorless fog and overrun by, well, demons. Your job is to slay them, collect their souls, and try not to lose your mind in the process. It is the grandfather of the genre, the game that started the whole difficulty is a feature trend. But the gameplay here feels unique because it respects the 2009 original while looking like a Pixar movie from hell. The combat is slower and more deliberate than Elden Ring. You have to be patient, you have to commit to every swing, and the DualSense support is incredible. You can actually feel the difference between hitting armor and hitting flesh through the controller haptics. Plus, with the SSD, when you die, and yeah, you will die, you're back in the action in literally 2 seconds. It removes the frustration and just leaves the addiction. Definitely worth it. At number 11 is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And look, if Remake was just the appetizer, this is the entire buffet. Actually, it's a buffet that never ends. You're continuing the journey with Cloud and the party after leaving Midgar, hunting down Sephiroth across the wider world. But the sheer scale of this game is what justifies the price tag. You aren't just running down corridors anymore. You have these massive open zones to explore, chocobos to ride, and an overwhelming amount of mini-games. Seriously, I spent way too much time playing Queen's Blood when I should have been saving the world. The combat is still that brilliant hybrid of real-time action and menu commands, but they added these synergy abilities where characters team up for flashy attacks. It makes the party feel like, well, an actual team. It's a 100-hour game easy, so for the money, yeah, you're getting plenty. At number 10 is God of War Ragnarok. If you played the 2018 reboot, you know exactly why this is here. But somehow, Santa Monica Studio managed to take what was already a near-perfect game and just expand it in every direction. The premise picks up a few years later. Fimbulwinter has set in, everything is frozen, and Kratos is just trying to keep his head down. But Atreus, well, Atreus is a teenager now. So naturally, he's rebellious, he's got secrets, and he's desperate to understand his identity as Loki. It sets you on a collision course with Thor and Odin, and the story delivery is just flawless. Gameplay-wise, it feels faster. You start with the Blades of Chaos this time, which means you have crowd control right from the jump. The combat creates this rhythm where you're freezing enemies with the axe, setting them on fire with the blades, and then smashing them with a shield. It feels heavy, it feels violent. And on the PS5, it runs like a dream. The haptics when you catch the Leviathan axe, it never gets old. Plus, they recently added the Valhalla DLC for free, which is basically an entire roguelike game mode. So for the content you get, yeah, it is absolutely worth full price. At number 9 is Baldur's Gate 3. Okay, look, if you haven't played this yet, I honestly don't know what you're waiting for. It swept the awards for a reason. You wake up on an alien ship, you get a mind flare parasite wiggling into your brain. Gross, I know. And you have to find a cure before you turn into a squid monster. That is the goal. But how you get there, that is entirely up to you. The gameplay is Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, but you don't need to be a nerd with a rulebook to enjoy it. It's turn-based, sure, but it's not boring. It is creative chaos. You want to push a goblin into a spider pit? Do it. You want to stack 40 crates to jump over a castle wall? Go for it. You can even talk a boss into killing himself so you don't have to fight him. And playing on PS5 with a controller, Larian actually nailed the radial menus. It feels intuitive. Plus, it supports split-screen co-op, which is, it's a bit taxing on the system sometimes, but having that option is incredible. The amount of content here is staggering. You could play it 3 times and see completely different things. Worth every penny. At number 8 is Elden Ring. From Software, they keep doing it, don't they? After Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, and the incredible Elden Ring is, well, it's their magnum opus. You're a tarnished, an exiled, called back to the lands between to become the Elden Lord. But that's just the setup. The real magic is the sheer freedom you have. You can go literally anywhere, fight anything, and tackle objectives in any order you want. It's an open world, but it's not filled with repetitive busywork. It's filled with secrets and terrifying monsters. The combat is that classic challenging Souls-like that we all love. Precise, weighty, and incredibly rewarding. But now you have mounts, you can jump, and the sheer variety of weapons, spells, and builds means every player's experience is unique. And the art direction, the world design, it's a masterpiece. It's a dark fantasy world that feels both beautiful and utterly hostile. You get hundreds of hours out of this game. Absolutely worth the full price. At number 7 is Metaphor Refantazio. Look, this is from the creative minds behind Persona 3, 4, and 5, so you already know the vibe. It's stylish as hell. But instead of high school simulation, they went for full-blown high fantasy. The premise is wild. The king is dead, and his death triggers basically a magical popularity contest to decide the new ruler. You play as a guy traveling the country in this massive walking tank called a gauntlet runner, trying to win the people's support. But the gameplay is where it evolves past Persona. They did this really smart thing where you can fight weak enemies in real time, just hack and slash them down to save time, but then seamlessly switch to turn-based combat for the tougher squads. It makes exploring dungeons feel so much faster. It respects your time. And the job system, they call them archetypes, gives you a ton of freedom to build your party however you want. Plus, the UI, it's arguably the most beautiful menu design I have ever seen. It is a massive 80-plus hour journey. For full price, yeah, you're getting your money's worth. At number 6 is Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. If you have ever wanted to play a Kurosawa movie, this is as close as you are ever going to get. It is arguably the most visually stunning open world on the PlayStation. You play as Jin Sakai, one of the last samurai on Tsushima Island during the first Mongol invasion of Japan. The premise is it's actually a really interesting internal conflict. You have to decide whether to stick to your honorable samurai code, which is getting your friends killed, or to become the ghost, using stealth and fear to save your home. The gameplay is just incredibly fluid. You have these 4 combat stances that you switch between on the fly to counter different enemy types: shields, spears, big brutes. Once you get the rhythm down, you feel untouchable. You feel like a master swordsman. And I have to mention the guiding wind. There's no ugly minimap cluttered with icons. You just swipe the touchpad and the wind blows in the direction of your objective. It keeps you immersed in the world. And specifically for the director's cut on PS5, you get the Iki Island expansion, which is a solid chunk of new story, plus the haptic feedback. Feeling the gallop of your horse or the clash of steel through the controller, it elevates the whole experience. It is a masterpiece, worth every cent. At number 5 is Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now, I know what some of you are going to say. Daniel, isn't this just a glorified DLC? And no, it's not. It is a tighter, more focused experience, and honestly, in some ways, it's better than the 2018 game. You play as Miles, obviously. Peter Parker goes on vacation, lucky guy, leaving you as the only Spider-Man in New York during the holidays. You're protecting Harlem from a shady energy corporation and a high-tech criminal army. It feels personal. It feels grounded. But the gameplay, man, it just flows. Miles has this swagger. You see it in the way he swings. He's flailing a bit. He's not perfect yet. But in combat, he is a powerhouse. You get these Venom bioelectric powers that let you nuke groups of enemies, and you can turn invisible. It makes the stealth actually fun rather than just something you have to do. And visually, snowy New York on the PS5 it's ridiculous. Seeing the ray-traced reflections in the windows as you dive bomb toward the street, yeah, it's a shorter game, sure, maybe 10 to 12 hours, but it is all killer, no filler. Absolutely worth the ride. At number 4 is Stellar Blade. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. There was a lot of conversation about this game online before it launched, and most of it wasn't about the gameplay. But here's the thing. Underneath all the flashy aesthetics, there is a genuinely fantastic action game here. You play as Eve, a soldier sent down to a ruined post-apocalyptic Earth to take it back from these grotesque alien monsters called Nightibus. The story is, well, it's a bit anime, a bit near Automata, but it keeps you moving forward. The combat, though, it is shark. It is incredibly responsive. It's not a button masher. You have to learn the rhythm. It leans heavy on parrying and perfect dodges. When you time it right and you get that spark and the controller snaps in your hands, it feels amazing. It's challenging without being unfair. And it is technically impressive. It runs at a smooth 60 frames per second, the soundtrack is a banger, and it feels like a complete package. No battle passes, no microtransaction nonsense cluttering the menu. Just a polished, high-octane single-player adventure. Definitely worth the cash. At number 3 is Astrobot. Okay, Listen, I know, it looks like a cute little game for kids, but if you skip this because of the art style, you are missing out on what is arguably the most joyful gaming experience on the entire console, maybe even the generation. You already know Astro from the free tech demo that came with your PS5, but this is the full-fat AAA experience. The mothership, which is literally a PS5 console, has crashed, and you have to travel across different galaxies to rescue your bot crew and repair the ship. But the gameplay, man, it is pure magic. It's a 3D platformer that honestly gives Mario a run for his money. Every level introduces a new mechanic, like a bulldog jetpack or monkey climber gloves, and just when you master it, they throw something new at you. It never gets stale. And the DualSense implementation, it is the gold standard. You can feel the rain, the sand, the ice. You can even feel the texture of the surfaces you walk on through the haptics. It's immersive in a way that shooter games wish they were. Plus, finding all the little bots dressed up like Kratos, Aloy, and Joker, it's a love letter to PlayStation history. It is impossible to play this game without a smile on your face. Worth every single penny. At number 2 is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. If you want a game to show your friends exactly why you bought a PS5, this is the one. It is effectively a playable Pixar movie. The animation quality is it's absurd. The story kicks off when Dr. Nefarious finally wins, sort of, and shatters the fabric of time and space. You get separated from Clank, and you end up teaming up with Rivet, a female Lombax from another dimension who is yeah, she's awesome. She arguably steals the whole show. But the gameplay is where the next-gen promise actually delivers. The core mechanic is these dimensional rifts. You can tether to a portal and instantly, and I mean instantly, warp across the map into a completely different world. There are no loading screens. The SSD just flexes the entire time. And Insomniac, they know how to make weapons. You aren't just shooting generic rifles, you're turning enemies into topiary hedges or freezing them, or blasting them with the Negatron Collider. The DualSense triggers actually change resistance depending on the gun you're using, which makes firing them feel incredibly tactile. It's polished, it's fun, and it is a technical masterpiece. Absolutely worth full price. At number 1 is Hogwarts Legacy. Look, for a lot of us, this isn't just a game. Um, this is the fulfillment of a childhood dream. We waited decades for a game that actually let us live in this world, and Avalanche Software finally delivered. You play as a new student starting in your 5th year, which is weird, yeah, but you have a rare ability to see and use ancient magic. The setting is the 1800s, so no Harry or Ron, but that actually works in its favor. It lets you carve out your own legend without worrying about canon events. But the gameplay, it's surprisingly deep. I think we all expected a walking simulator, but the combat is legitimately fun. It's this rhythmic dance of blocking, dodging, and chaining spells together. You're juggling enemies in the air, freezing them, setting them on fire. It makes you feel powerful. It makes you feel like a talented wizard. And the world design, man, Hogwarts itself is the real main character here. It is massive, it is detailed, and it is full of secrets. Just walking through the corridors, seeing the paintings move, or flying your broom over Hogsmeade at sunset, it captures that magic perfectly. On the PS5, the DualSense adds to it too. You feel the fizzle of the spells in your hands. It is a massive, immersive RPG that respects the source material. Without a doubt, worth every single penny. So yeah, there you have it. 18 games that actually feel like they justify that $70 price tag. And look, I know gaming it's an expensive hobby right now. We all feel it. But these titles, whether it's because of the hundreds of hours of content or just the sheer level of polish, they don't leave you with that buyer's remorse. They respect your time and your wallet. But I want to know, what's a game you bought full price recently that you felt was worth every single penny? Or which one did you instantly regret? Let me know down in the comments. I actually read through those. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, drop a like. It really helps the channel out. I'll catch you guys in the next one.